Essentially, this cohort growing career capacity is sort of the continuation of the work that we've done over the last few years. We're going to center on four uh, intensive days. So those days will run like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we'll be doing that on Saturdays in the Small Business Center. And one of the virtues of partnering with the Small Business Center is that they have a really beautiful space. Uh, So we will get to be there together. A lot of what we'll be doing will involve group activities, activities that we complete on our own, collaborative activities, and then also information. So these sessions, they are intensive sessions, so they're designed to give you a whole lot of information and resources at one time. But the idea too is at the end of these particular sessions that you will have an idea not only what these things are, but how they apply very specifically to what it is that you are doing. So the first session that we will be undertaking is marketing. So, as I mentioned before, essentially a lot of this program is all of the skills that, even if you had gone to university and taken arts training at a university, these are the things that simply aren't covered in those university and college courses. Focus on the technical skills that we develop, but they don't focus on the skills that bring our work out into the public in significant ways. So, the importance of this program is that we get to develop those skills, and not only in an environment that is outside of a grades-based environment. So this is not an environment where you are sort of, trying to do well in the course to kind of satisfy a grade requirement. This is an environment where you are doing well to support your own practice. And that's a really important distinction, because what we're doing is supporting ourselves and working together in community. A lot of the times when we think of working in the arts, it's based on scarcity, on competition. That is not the focus of these sessions. The focus of these sessions is growing a healthy, supportive, sustainable community together. So the first session, as I said before, marketing. So how many people have extensive experience with marketing? Not so much. It's something that is one of the most difficult things. It is something that, you may be one of the best artists. You may be, absolutely great at what you do, but if you don't have the ability to get that out into the public, if you don't have the ability to get your practice in front of the people who can support its growth, then it's very difficult to proceed. So what we'll be doing is concentrating initially on learning essential marketing skills to support the creative work that you produce, present, promote, or sell. Then we'll also move on to project management. Every artist, every creative is also a project manager. If you notice in Stephanie's bio, she is really a project manager. She's credentialed. This is really about how to build out your project into the kind of achievable steps, learn how to measure your progress, learn how to open and close a project, and really sort of formulate it in a way that makes it achievable, but also understandable, and you can communicate it to others. So this is also important if you're someone who's interested in collaborating with others. So how do you communicate what it is that you're doing? Oh, I went forward on the slide. I am so bad at this. Oh, there it is. I just have to hover until it goes gray again. So that project management piece really is, taking an idea from that initial idea, that spark, to implementation. So, we'll look at those sort of essential documents of project management, what you need to keep yourself organized, both in terms of time, finances, all of those things. The third thing we'll look at is actually fairly new to people applying within the creative and arts sectors, which is data collection and analysis. So data collection and analysis is something that, the sort of non-arts business world has been engaged in for quite some time. But in the arts, we tend to not do a great job of collecting data and analyzing data. When we think of data, sometimes it can seem like a bit of an abstract term, but how many exhibitions you've participated in, that's a piece of data, that's a piece of information. How many people have visited your website, that's a piece of data, that's a piece of information. So all of these things, we're going to learn how to measure them, how to interpret them, and how to use data to learn about your practice and also other practices. We're also going to talk about community collaboration in data collection and analysis. One of the really important things that we can do as a community of creative practitioners is to begin to collect data that can then be pooled together for things like advocacy. So as individual practitioners in the arts, we often don't collect the same kinds of data sets that other sectors do. So for example, say you're in the manufacturing sector, it's actually fairly easy to sort of look up how much income manufacturing makes in one given city. But because a lot of creative activity is not recorded in an official way, sometimes it becomes much harder to sort of centralize that data. So that is something that we'll also be partnering with the Windsor Artist Exchange on. And the fourth and final session is Creative Business Launch. So this will be done in partnership with the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Center. And this will really connect you with local resources for your next step. So once you have marketing, project management, data collection analysis, that last step there is going to be that ultimate launch. Once you have everything you need, the only thing that you're really responsible for is your idea and practice. that is what we don't cover here. So in terms of program delivery and resources, in-person sessions are designed as intensives to build your knowledge and skills in vital areas and provide a framework for your path forward. Come prepared to learn, contribute, and collaborate. So these sessions will be a mix of presentations, activities, and opportunities for co-working with peers and experienced professionals in the field. There will be a week in advance of each of the sessions, we will send out some information about what you can come prepared with for the next session. So for your marketing session, for example, we will ask you, to come with things that you've written about your work, because we'll be concentrating on things like messaging. So resources will be available for 1 year post program. They're meant for sharing. So, another thing that's a really important outcome of this project as a whole, the Growing Creative Careers project, is that the resources that we create, they're meant to share with your own network. They are meant to go far and wide and to help build the community as a whole. So the first session topics for this will be introduction to marketing, defining your client or audience, charting your success. So that's really about measurement, using marketing channels. So we'll go through different marketing channels, building your marketing toolkit. We'll do a collaborative exercise of creating a marketing plan, and then we'll have time for questions and discussion. Part of the things that we'll cover in Introduction to Marketing are things like the difference between marketing and advertising, common terminology, and essentially this will be like a sort of large overview of that topic. This is the schedule. So, and this session schedules will generally follow this kind of format. So at 10, we'll have a little bit of a welcome, introductions, and go through the outline, just so that we make sure that our expectations are sort of set for the day. We'll start with our introduction. We'll define the practice and business. In order to market something, you really need to have a very succinct idea of what it is. We'll talk about storytelling and presence, and we'll do a collaborative exercise on crafting your message. At 10:45, we'll look more at defining your client and audience. So once you've defined what you do, who is it that you're doing it for? Who are you seeking to connect with? Is it, are you seeking to connect with curators? Are you seeking to connect with galleries? Do you have individual clients? Are you seeking to let existing clients in another discipline know that you're doing arts practice now? Um, I will focus also on the customer or client journey, right? So how is it that people interact with you? Once you've made a point of contact with them, what journey are you bringing them on? How do you bring them in? Audience reach, we'll take a little break. That should say 11:30. We'll do a value proposition chart, a SWOT analysis, some strategic planning. We'll get that customer profile and journey ironed out after we've learned about it. We'll eat some lunch. Then we'll talk about marketing channels like social media platforms and websites. We won't be focusing a whole lot on traditional media marketing materials, even if you're someone who's working in traditional materials. So even like, for example, you produce a magazine, we'll talk about the marketing strategy around that magazine. Building your marketing toolkit. So we'll talk about design tools, scheduling and planning tools, analysis tools, advertising, engagement tools, and also artificial intelligence tools. We'll then take a break. We'll do a collaborative exercise of creating your marketing plan, and then questions and discussion. So even if you're someone who has not necessarily completely drilled down on what it is exactly they want to do, you will have all of the structure. Once you have keyed in on that idea, you will have all the structure to support that. So don't feel as if, if you're not sort of at a very advanced stage with what you're thinking of in terms of your creative practice, that this isn't something to participate in. This really is about looking at building out structures that support what you want to do. Does anyone have any questions about the topics or the ways that we're going to be doing things? So the second session that we'll be doing is project management. Oh, I did it again. So we'll learn how to take the project from idea to implementation. We'll look at an introduction to project management, defining what a project is. So a project is going to be different than your practice as a whole. Project documents, collaboration and agreements, project management tools, and we're going to create a project plan and a timeline. And so we're going to go really from the very sort of foundation right to the end of creating that project timeline. And so at the end of that, you'll also have a set of essential project planning documents and an idea of how to proceed. So the third session, data collection and analysis. So introduction to data, identifying measurement needs. What do you need to care about and collect? Interpretation and analysis, data collection ethics. You can't collect absolutely all of the information and you can't put information just anywhere. So depending on the kind of information you're looking to capture or what you identify as as what you need to measure, we'll talk about some ethics about that. We'll talk about visualizing data. So how can you communicate what you've collected? Also collaborative metrics for advocacy. And then we'll have time for questions and discussion. Creative business launch. This will be co-presented with SBEC and focus on getting prepped to launch your creative business or practice and connect with ongoing resources available in the community through our GCC partners.
Evaluation has such a negative connotation. It feels like I'm going to be like probing and prompting. It's really just a term to describe how we're trying to understand whether this program is working for you, whether you're learning things from it, and if you are, what are those things, whether they're positive or negative, what are those things that we need to know about, to do differently, or to recommend back to the funders, to the Ontario Trillium Foundation, as well as our partners at the Small Business Center and the Arts Council. So at some point, I'm going to send you some survey links. I'd love if you can click through and give us some frank answers, and I'll keep it short and sweet. And if you're able to talk to us as well, or talk to me and provide some feedback, I'd love to do that. And we can even roll that into a kind of a support session if you have any kind of data collection or data questions that you want to ask. I definitely want to keep it conversational and casual. So unfortunately, evaluation is the term a lot of folks use, but it's really about learning and growth. And and figuring out how we can support you to grow together in the Windsor region and in your arts practice. So my email is there for you.
And Chris is great and super, like, other people that have gotten feedback from Chris in previous sessions have, found it super valuable. And Chris makes a very good point about evaluation. And I think we can extend sort of evaluation into thinking about things like criticism. And it's really important in these sessions that we're really open to feedback from each other and understanding that none of the feedback that we're going to be giving each other is in service of, of stopping anyone from pursuing something. It is not, it is not the kind of, we're not criticizing things in service of shutting things down or suggesting that someone not pursue something. It really is about creating a supportive environment where we can be very frank with each other, where we can openly communicate our needs and our reactions to things. Because I think that, especially working on the things that we're working on, communication is central to any creative practice. You can be the biggest virtuoso artist, you could be the most masterful musician. If you can't communicate what you do, it's going to be very difficult to bring that to a wider audience. And within that communication, we need to be able to be very open with each other and to understand that the way that we're working together is towards empowering each other, is towards learning, and it's towards this larger goal. So, also I will fully admit, I have made some terrible graphic design decisions in my probably really recently. So, none of us, even those of us that are kind of in the sort of position of delivering information or facilitating, none of us are people who would not benefit from open communication and criticism when it's necessary. Developing a kind of community that is accountable to each other and supportive to each other is really important. And understanding that, if you're making something or doing something in these plans that, makes sense to, 2% of people that are seeing it, is 2% of people your audience? Or are you seeking to make something that is interesting for 60 to 70% of people who will encounter it, 80%, 90%, right? So this is why we need to really sort of be frank with each other about, I think maybe that sentence that you wrote about what you're seeking to do might get confused with this. I think that, if you're using this particular graphic on your website, but what you're doing has a very different tone, maybe consider changing it. And so these are the kinds of open dialogues that we're going to be having in sessions. And it's really important that we state that this is an open and supportive environment, and that the way that we're going to be challenging each other is to do better. We have the virtue of having some graphic designers here, so especially for our when we're working on our marketing, we've got some people who definitely have some experience, right? So again, leaning on each other as a peer group, being very open with what it is that we want to be doing, where we're experiencing challenges in what we want to be doing. Stephanie just emailed or just DM'd us all to say that we've got the name, so we know who you are. We've got people who have experience in teaching. So all of your experiences up into this point in your, even non-creative practices are going to come into play with what you're doing now. So we're going to lead with our strengths. We're going to resource each other. We're going to challenge each other. We're going to learn a whole lot. And at the end of this, not only will we be able to pursue what it is that we want to pursue, but we'll also be able to resource and support our personal networks. So even if your focus, what you want to work on within this project is just, developing a body of work that then you're going to be, sharing with curators or, whatever it is, that all of those principles still apply. You're welcome. But I mean, and that's the other thing is like when we go, if we go to an arts education, whatever we do, the kind of business side or administrative side to what we do is what we don't talk about in those spaces. But all of that is what supports our ability to actually do those things. Okay, well, Stephanie, if you don't have anything else to add, I think we can say good evening to everyone.
I do have a couple of things to add. Sorry, folks,
you
not quite yet. I always do. Well, I'm just very excited to be with this group. I mean, this is now our 4th cohort in this series, and we've just seen, how much impact it's had in the community, and it's been great seeing recurring faces, and then also new people come and learn about the program and learn together. As a preview for next week, for our first in-person session on marketing, I also wanted to mention that I'm going to be joined by my colleagues, Brianne D'Angelo, who is WorkInCulture's marketing and communications manager, and very experienced. She has well over a decade working in the arts and culture sector as a marketer and has seen it all. She has truly seen it all. So she is a wealth of knowledge and certainly somebody that you can connect with during the session next week. And I'm also going to be joined, you heard us mention her earlier, Naomi Stokes is our project support assistant, and she also manages the implementation of our social media. And she can keep up with the social media trends in a way that I can't even fathom. So she is also a wealth of knowledge in that area, and in terms of creating engaging content on social. So she's also a great person that you can connect with while we're there. And just also looking ahead to some of the other sessions. Now, for our cohorts, we've kept the groups fairly small, just because we want to make sure that there is a lot of opportunity for peer learning, and works very well when we're in these kind of intimate groups. But we do have some very limited spaces left for in-person sessions. So if you have a friend or somebody from your network who you think might benefit from attending some of the upcoming sessions, they can certainly still register until we're sold out. They don't need to sign up for all of them, but certainly the idea is that attending all of the in-person sessions gives you that really nice, well-rounded exposure to all the topics and the type of elements that you might keep in mind when thinking about how to build out your career and take your next step. So just offering that, if anybody has any questions, or if you want to direct them to me about what else they might need to know about the program, I'm just popping my email into the chat there. Please feel free to forward them my way, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, so thanks so much, everyone, and I will see you on the 29th, and I look forward to meeting you all in person. And yes, there's refreshments as well as the all-day learning session. So if you haven't already let anyone know of dietary restrictions you may have, do let us know. Okay, all right, thanks everyone. Have a great evening.
We'll see you soon.